Alright, so we're back at it again. It's your boy Mark. And first and foremost, to you brothers and sisters that have subscribed to my channel already, I just want to say thank you. I do appreciate you guys showing your support. I appreciate the likes. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the advice and the feedback that has been given to me. And I will get to y'all requests. A few of y'all have hit me up and asked me to cover certain players. And I definitely will do that. Just be patient with me. I wanted to cover some players that were on my mind first when I first had the idea to start the video. My job again is to enlighten those who are interested in the history of the game of basketball and want to know more about the great players that came before their time period. A lot of people do think that basketball pretty much started in the year 2000 and everybody before that was just, they weren't up to par. And, that cannot be further from the truth. So that's my job, to just cover the historical great players that go underrated. A lot of people have heard of players like Elgin Baylor, Moses Malone, Dr. J, but don't really know how great they were. And this brother right here named Isiah Thomas, a lot of people definitely do not know how great he was and what he brought to the table. So today we're going to cover him. So let's dive right in. Alright, so Isiah Thomas was born in Chicago, Illinois in 1961, and he was the youngest of 9 siblings total. And his family struggled a lot growing up. They were pretty much raised by a single mother. So even though he did fall in love with the game pretty early in his life, apparently when he was 3 years old is when he first picked up a basketball and started to really have a love for the game. His overall dreams and aspirations really weren't about necessarily making it to the NBA at first. His dreams were about, having food to eat each day. And that's something that he wrote in his book that he had put out. I'm not sure what year it was, but he wrote a book at one point in time, and he, specified about the things that he thought about growing up. Basketball wasn't always in the forefront of his mind, but, he was naturally good at it. He had a couple older brothers that were good at it as well. So, he fell in love with the game by watching them play. But at the time period, just based off the situation that they were in, they had to worry about other things at the time that were even more important than that, like pretty much how to survive. So his one older brother named Larry, he actually was invited to try out with the Chicago Bulls, but he got hurt. He had an injury that caused him from being able to have an opportunity to, potentially make the team. And he ended up turning back to the streets. And his other brother, Lord Henry, he was a great basketball player as well growing up, but he ended up turning to drugs and things of that nature as well. So overall, for their family pretty much to have a way out from the struggle they were in, it pretty much fell on his shoulders. And he was able to grind and, stay out of trouble. His brother Larry actually was the one, even though he was in the streets, he did actually encourage Isiah Thomas to stay out of trouble and keep playing ball. And that's what he did. He stayed focused, and he was the one that was able to excel. And by his 8th grade year in middle school, he was so dominant on the court that the nearby high school coach, the high school coach for St. Joseph's, his name was Gene Pingator. He was so impressed by what he saw out of Isiah Thomas that he actually secured financial aid for Isiah Thomas to come play at St. Joseph High School. And when he played there, his junior and senior seasons, he led them to a 57-5 record, and they went to the final round in his junior year where they would end up losing. But he was so dominant, he customarily scored over 40 points a game. So he was exceptional. And then after he graduated from high school, he ended up committing to Indiana University, where he would play under Coach Bob Knight. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of Bob Knight. He's one of the most famous basketball coaches in NCAA history. And he played 2 seasons for the Indiana Hoosiers. And in the 1981 season, he led them to the championship. They won the whole thing. And he was the Final Four most outstanding player. And after they won the championship, he decided to declare for the NBA draft. And in the 1981-82 season, he was drafted by the Detroit Pistons as the number 2 overall pick. And his first year as a rookie, he made the all-rookie team. He stood out. They struggled at first. His first 2 seasons, they did struggle. They didn't even make the playoffs. It took them a little while to figure things out. They started to really excel once they brought in Coach Chuck Daly. Once Chuck Daly came, they started to make the playoffs each year. He was an all-star year in and year out. Altogether, Isiah Thomas made 12 all-star teams, and he was a multiple-time all-star game MVP in 84 and 86. In the 85 season, he actually led the league in assists. And eventually, they became one of the top teams in the league. By the 87 season, they made it to the conference finals, where they would lose to the Boston Celtics, and that's where Isiah Thomas is known. Is known for that infamous play where he threw a pass inbounds and Larry Bird intercepted it, and threw the assist to Dennis Johnson, which sealed the deal. If I'm not mistaken, that was Game 5. That was Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals. So if they would have potentially ended up winning that game, which it looked like they were going to, they most likely would have closed that series out in 6, but it ended up going to 7 and they lost. And then in the 88 season, they made it to the finals. They were able to defeat the Celtics, dethrone the Celtics, because the Celtics were the team that ran the Eastern Conference in the mid-80s. And they were able to dethrone them. And then they became the team to represent the East the next 3 years. In 88, they lost to the Lakers, who had Magic Johnson, Kareem, James Worthy. That series went to 7 games, and in Game 6, Isiah Thomas, that was the game, another infamous game, where he actually sprained his ankle. He sprained his ankle, but he still scored, what was it, like 46 points. Now, this is off the top of my head. I remember this, 46 points with a sprained ankle, and they ended up losing that game, but that was an all-time great performance, man. A very memorable performance by Isiah Thomas. He pretty much put his heart and soul into that game to try to help that team win. They still ended up losing, and then they ended up losing altogether in Game 7. And it wasn't until the next season, which would be the 89 season, where they were finally able to capture their first title. That's when they played the Lakers again, and they swept them. And they won a title that year, and then they followed up the next season in the 1990 season, and they were back-to-back championships. So in 89 and 90, they were back-to-back champions. Isiah Thomas won the MVP of the finals in 1990. And then the next season, in the 91 season, they made it to the conference finals for the last time. And, of course, that's when the Bulls took them out. And that would be the beginning of Michael Jordan's reign. And then after that, they never made it back even to the conference finals again, let alone the finals. And pretty much at that point, the Pistons started to fall off. And by the 94 season, Isiah Thomas retired from the NBA. That's when he tore his Achilles. But all in all, Isiah Thomas had a fantastic career. Great all-time point guard. If you look up his numbers, he's 9th all-time in career assists, and he's number 6 all-time in career assists per game average. And the only player that's had more seasons than Isiah Thomas, averaging over 20 points and 10 assists, is Oscar Robertson. He did it 5 times, and Isiah Thomas did it 4 times. He's number 2 on that list. In the 96 season, he was recognized as one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history. And in the 2000 season, in the year 2000, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And he also had a brief coaching career with the Indiana Pacers. He coached them for 3 seasons from 2000 to 2003. He led them to the playoffs all 3 years. And he also coached the Knicks from 06 to 08. They didn't really have much success, but altogether, that pretty much wraps things up for Isiah Thomas. For those who are not that familiar with him, or maybe are familiar but didn't, know in depth what he actually did as a player, I hope you learned a lot from this video. And once again, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I thank you for the support. All right, man. So before I let you guys go, I did want to say one thing. I said that Isiah Thomas scored 46 points in that game. He sprained his ankle. It was actually 43 points. I thought I had that up here. I thought I knew that off the top of my head, but just want to correct myself. I didn't want to, give y'all any type of false information. I want my stuff to be as accurate as I possibly can make it for you guys. But nonetheless, I do thank you guys again. You guys that have subscribed to my channel already, I appreciate that. Keep letting people know about me. Follow me on IG, trademark with 5 underscores. And once again, man, I'm going to keep these videos coming. I'm going to keep taking requests from people, different ideas, and I appreciate feedback. I appreciate advice. And once again, I thank you guys for showing love, and I hope you guys have a blessed one.